Think of them like this. Think of a good paperweight, the way you'd think of a violinist's virtuoso star turn, as the total mastery of technique shown off in a dazzling display. Stop and consider, how did those flowers get inside? And what about the bees? New Jersey artist Paul Stankard made this one.
I invented a personal response to nature in glass. I grew up in Massachusetts, eastern Massachusetts, pastures, dairy farms, woods. And early on, when I started to make paperweights, I started thinking about my childhood memories.
Stankard's paperweight was created for the Art Institute of Chicago.
The public is always in this gallery, and they look at these little miniature marvels of technique, and they're tour de forces, they're technical tour de forces.
Christopher Monkhouse is the chief curator for European decorative arts at the Art Institute, home to one of the great collections of paperweights in the world, the nearly 1,500 donated by real estate developer and philanthropist, the late Arthur Rubloff.
Just as this collection was coming to the Art Institute, he obviously wanted to top it off with something extraordinary.
4 silkworms on a leaf. Arthur Rubloff bought it at auction for $143,000 in 1983. Another collector, writer Truman Capote. He said a paperweight is like a fragment of a dream. Empress Eugénie, wife of Napoleon III, not only collected them, she and her husband both ended up being turned into paperweights themselves.
And that's right at the beginning of the paperweight craze. It goes hand in hand with the World's Fairs. And the first great World's Fair was London, 1851.
Fairgoers were captivated by paperweights made in France, small treasures which combined all kinds of age-old glassmaking techniques.
This is called Millefiori.
Why?
And, well, literally it means in Italian, 1,000 flowers. This is the cross-section of the glass when you cut it out and you get these like little miniature flowers within.
What happened when letter writing went out of style? Paperweights, even the fabulous ones collected by royalty, did too, for a while. That is, until individual glassmakers in their own studios became fascinated with them, beginning in the 1960s and 70s, including Paul Stankard. When you got started making paperweights, what kind of status did paperweights have?
Kitsch.
Kitsch was not what Stankard had in mind. No ticky-tacky knickknacks, no souvenirs.
I can remember going to the Corning Glass Museum, looking at their collection of antique French paperweights, and somehow realizing that if I'm going to be successful in my field, I better do better than the best of the antique French because they didn't have technology on their side. And I'm going to take the bee thorax, and I'm going to take a bee butt, and then I'm going to seal them together.
What you see him doing is called lampwork, meaning that he uses a kind of torch to create the tiny objects that go inside one of his paperweights. They may look real, but every detail is glass.
People look at my work and they're like, God, look at that detail. What flower is that?
Possibly an imaginary one. In fact, it's a metaphor.
It's a metaphor. And it's a metaphor.
A detail metaphor.
Well, thank you. Well said.
Paul Stankard is among the most important makers of paperweights today. Each design is its own mesmerizing universe, poetry suspended in crystal, the way he sees it, with a price tag as high as $75,000. Stankard's story is as amazing as what he makes.
I don't want to disrespect the educational system, but I was a functional illiterate.
Stankard was dyslexic before dyslexia was identified. His chemist father talked him into studying scientific glass blowing. It's like a flask within a flask.
Flask within a flask.
He earned his living crafting custom glassware for research, and to pick up extra money, made trinkets, pennies in bottles, small glass animals, to sell at craft fairs, until he fell in love with paperweights.
The paperweight makers were very secretive. Next to nothing written about how to make a paperweight. So here's my botanical components.
So he had to teach himself, through trial and error, what to do. He had to figure out, by manipulating temperature and timing, how to take a gob of glass heated to 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit and attach it to a pan full of little treasures, also heated just enough not to melt them. The furnace, for what it's worth, is called the glory hole. Out of it comes a true make or break moment. A paperweight at last. It goes into an oven to rest.
Nice. Hey! We did it!
You get excited like this every single time?
Often, yes. It's and especially now because the day's over. And I have something beautiful in the oven.
And now you know how the flowers get inside.